Hello and welcome to this new incredible episode of In This Together with me, you guessed it, your host, Federico, of course. So, let's dive right now into another topic, another interesting topic. And I gotta say I was incredibly mesmerized. I was so incredibly excited to bring on this new topic because the other day I was just scrolling by a little bit of some posts on LinkedIn and I stood by and I said, well, this is fucking interesting. I should try to delve into even further. Today we're gonna talk about the difference between intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. That's right, my friends, that's right. So let's dive right into it. So what's exactly intrinsic motivation? Let's start from within ourselves. So basically, when you're intrinsically motivated, you feel joy, you feel natural joy and passion to do and to perform an activity or sport or whatever you might think of. For example, for myself, I've always loved throughout my entire life doing sports, a lot of external activities. So for example, if you come to my apartment and say, Federico, please join me to play football or soccer for my American friends, or for example, basketball, or go for a run, or go for a walk. I say, of course, let's do it. I don't need a particular reward because afterwards I know that just the action, so the mere action, the mere activity will produce some good excitement within myself, which I won't need at the end of it, something that came to me back in return. So for example, I know if I go playing soccer, the only fact to kick the ball in a certain way and maybe scoring a goal or just having that kind of rush of endorphins doing the activity produced by it. So just the moving part, so the movement part, the motion of doing that particular activity, that particular sport for me is incredibly important, and it fulfills me with passion and love. And so the next day, I wouldn't be less motivated than the other day because I didn't get money for that. Because I love doing that. I love doing that. I love doing that incredible activity. And that's why it's so difficult to have in other part, because many things that we do on a daily basis, it's much more difficult to be intrinsically motivated, because when you're working on something you're not interested in, well then being intrinsically motivated is much more difficult. So that's why here we have the second part of the equation that come to help us, which is the extrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivation meaning that the motivation, so what drives us, what's the driving part, the driving force. So what we do is driven by a potential outcome, by a potential reward at the end, or maybe even for you do a particular kind of activity because you want to avoid a punishment at the end. So, and if I put it like that, you may think that extrinsic motivation could be actually bad for you. Well, my friends, it's not exactly bad, because there are certain types of situation in which extrinsic motivation could be extremely helpful for you. For example, if you have to do something, maybe for your job, for your occupation, and you cannot really find the strength and the power to drag you to do that kind of activity while getting a little bit of reward, but it has to be little, it has to be small, it has to be a hint, not a big reward, but it can really enhance your willpower and will enhance your person to do it and to try as powerfully as you can to reach that kind of activity, because you have to push a little bit, you have to force yourself to do it because you don't love what you're doing in that particular moment. So just a little bit, just a little push, just a little bit of a stretch. So guys, I was just willing to close this episode with an example that happened to me and made me reflect a lot. You know, I was involved in this month and in these years, throughout these years, in content creation, and you gotta know that I particularly love nutrition, foods, cooking, and everything that revolves around the food topic. I love food in general, and so I started, you know, sharing some videos, editing video of great chefs, because I was really enthralled by how these great chefs can manage and can actually create, you know, from maybe a wild salmon, a beautiful tartare, or some magic and fantastic recipes. So I was enthralled by the capacity, by the ability of these chefs to create, to craft something out of pure natural whole foods. Okay, so, and I was sharing these videos on various platforms, you know, TikTok, Instagram, and whatever. And at the same time, I was really just creating those videos for me was very much entertaining. So creating those videos for me was very much entertaining. I loved them. But there's a catch here. After a while, the page started growing, started being, you know, get some followers, and I activated the monetization. What about it? So I was applying to an intrinsically motivated activity. I was going to apply a reward at the end, because then you will have done videos not just for the sake of creating a beautiful crafted video about food, but because you wanted more of something. You wanted more views, you wanted more monetization coming in every day. You see, when you have the TikTok page that you had, oh, today you have €1, €2, €10, €20. Oh. And so, at one point, I was struck by it, because I was just acknowledging the fact that I wasn't doing it, that I wasn't producing those videos because I felt them, and because I felt compelled to do them, but just because I wanted more views, I wanted more reward at the end. And that was really pissing me off. And what was the only method I knew for getting back to it? The only way I could get back to that passion that drove me before the monetization was actually try to get to another video which I loved. I loved that video, but I loved it because, you know, when you're starting thinking about views and monetization, you start just thinking about those patterns of how the algorithm works, how the algorithm can lead you to privilege, for example, a food instead of another. And so you're making choices because of the algorithm and not because of what you want to put on the screen. And after a while I said, well, this it's not gonna work, because I'm not doing it with passion. I'm not doing it because I love to do it. I just doing it I'm just doing it because I want to make a little more money. And the only way I knew for getting back that control over my passion was actually to find a video that I loved, and the food that I loved, in which was this incredible recipe which I loved, and I loved even to recreate in my apartment, and that was the only way to get it back. That was it. The only way to get it back was with passion, and was with getting back to what you truly loved. And that was me. For me, that was an example that I think it can really help you understand why it's so important to have balance between the two. Because, of course, intrinsically motivation could lead maybe to a greater results because you do what you love, you do what you're passionate about. But if you don't have that push, sometimes in extrinsically motivated part, well, then I think it should be very good to have a good balance of the two. Well, guys, thank you very much for watching and for staying here with me in this room, because remember, for me it's so important, so critical. It's critical to have you here with me. I know that you're here. I can feel your presence here with me doing these recordings. And thank you very much for every single views. Every single view for me is of utmost importance. So thank you for watching. Thank you for staying with me, for using your time to look at this face. Thank you so much. And if you're listening on Spotify, thank you for listening. I really appreciate that. And I hope you found this one pretty interesting about motivation. And if you like it, comment it on comment with your opinions and your experiences, and how did you experience one, so the intrinsic motivated part, or maybe the extrinsic motivated part. When do you have an experience of direct or indirect, or maybe more importantly, when the two collided, when the two motivations collided with one another, as I just mentioned in my example with the monetization part. So guys, thank you very much for listening and for watching. And remember guys, we're all in this together. So thank you very much and God bless you all. Bye bye. See you next time.